polyamorous librarian, and I just want one place in my house where the light does not reflect off my glasses in such a way that makes me want to scream. So I'm feeling away. You can tell because I have a wig on and I'm not doing some sort of karaoke performance. I finished up physical therapy today. I am a little sad and very happy because physical therapy is tough. I have to be in a car to get there, which means I literally spent not this session, but the last session dealing with just, the symptoms of car sickness. So it felt like it was a waste of time. Because in the time it took me to take my anti-dizziness medication, it just hadn't kicked in. So yeah, I was sick the whole way there, and then we just dealt with that instead of what was supposed to be the underlying problems and the positional vertigo that I have had since. So we did the, closing session thing, reassessment, and, all my numbers were worse than when I started. So it was not the fix that I was hoping for. It was not the relief that had come last time, because the last time I went was the first time that I felt any better after the initial incident of going from feeling a little dizzy all the time and maybe I can't watch, certain movies or play certain video games or whatever. And I went from that to I can't work anymore. It's not worth the cost of having a car, although I can still drive. I can no longer go anywhere that's far. And by far, I mean I had to set a couple days aside to go see my grandmother, who is, let's face it, she's dying. And I had to set aside a couple days for her in case the trip, which is about maybe an hour and a half, was too much for me. And that was really tough because, a lot of people think that if they can't see what's wrong with you, then there's nothing wrong with you. So when they see nothing wrong with you and they basically are like, oh, so you just get car sick? It's like, no, I physically can't, feel stable ever. I live with that, and my body is dealing with it in ways that I don't always recognize right away. So one of the things that he said is, I forget what he called it. He didn't call it after images of motion, but it was something like after images of motion. I told him it was in the Matrix, the first Matrix, when Agent Smith is moving and then you see the other Agent Smiths where he moved. It feels like that, but that I am every single one of those agents. I feel all of that. It's oh, I moved, but I'm still sort of over here catching up to myself. And it's really difficult, but also your stomach knows what's going on, even if your eyes are not taking in that information. So on top of that, I have not finished a book yet. I mean, I'm reading I read some Lumberjanes. I think it was 18 and 19, volumes 18 and 19, and something called Compass, which was Greg Rucka was super into it, but I didn't love it. I was a little confused as to what was going on at some points, and I thought I would love it, but I just didn't. But I'm reading Black Love Matters, which is really great, but it's all essays, and I've, since the pandemic especially, I've been having problems reading nonfiction and essay work. Not in the sense that I'm not enjoying it as much as I always did. I am, but I definitely have the sense that I need to like put the book down more often, especially in any break between essays and even any break within an essay. It's like, oh, this section of the essay has ended. I need to like get up. I need to move around. At first, that felt very much like a panic, not a panic, but like, you know when you have like a panic response to something and you're like, oh, I have to get up and move away now. That's how I felt at the beginning of the pandemic, when I was reading anything. And now it just seems to be like a little bit of a, okay, I'm just going to take a little break now. I'm going to do like a Sudoku or whatever. So it's not so bad, but between essays, I definitely have that compulsion to like put the whole work down and go do something else, which annoys me as someone who likes to read things from beginning to end. But I'm trying to be both respectful of what my brain is asking for and still pushing it a little so that it doesn't always stay in that place. I really like to talk about what's going on with how my reading habits have changed since the pandemic in case anyone else has had something similar happen to them. All that being said, between that sense of feeling like I'm behind, which I'm not, but that sense of feeling like my reading has changed and it's been making me feel grumpy, and physical therapy and the reassessment, my physical therapist actually said to me like, okay, well, we can compare this to our initial assessment and know that we're in a worse place because you had the positional vertigo and you feel worse. And so when you put the two papers next to each other, there has been almost no progress whatsoever, except that we know one exercise makes you feel a little bit better. So I had a little bit of like just a sense of restlessness and grumpiness, and so I'm like doing this tonight. I just can't take my hair right now. I always want to dye it and mess around with it, but it's just so damaged from all the other times that I wanted to dye it and mess around with it that I was like, oh wait, I got this wig in a breakup. It's actually not as bad as I thought once I like smoothed it down and everything. I don't know. It made me feel better. And I have bookmail, which I didn't think this through because I've got a box cutter, some mail, and an iPad in my hand. I'm very clever, Smart. Very smart. I was saving the bookmail, actually, for when my best friend comes over. He was going to go pick up some of my books from the bookstore. I bought some books for the first time in a really long time that weren't freebies or sales from Amazon. I also bought his Christmas present, so he was going to go get that for me. But I don't see people during a pandemic, so anyhoodle. So I saved this mail till now. Hey, I managed to open this whole thing with one hand. You should be very proud of me. All right. So this is really exciting. I actually won a book on Twitter. I am a huge Midnight Pals fan. God, I'm so sorry about this reflection. I'm a huge Midnight Pals fan, and if you read Midnight Pals, you'll see me in the comments all the time. I can't help it. I freaking love Midnight Pals. It is just one of the reasons that I am on Twitter. Honestly, I started on Twitter because Gail Simone is great and funny and ridiculous. And then somehow I ran across it. I think Gail actually retweeted it at some point. And I was like, this is amazing. And I'm going to just, this is why I'm here. Anyway, so one of the authors was mentioned, I guess for the first time. And was so excited about being mentioned that she she, I think, decided to do a giveaway, and I won. So I am very excited. It's called Playing Possum. The author's name is Stephanie Rabig. It's probably pronounced something completely differently, but I am really excited to read this. I want to read it like somewhat soon, but on the other hand, I've had this, like, I go through these phases where, like, I'm really super into horror and then I'm not. And it's not even like you'd think it would be like an October thing, but it's actually not. And I have, my book club's doing like an all horror October, but I hate the idea of like pushing these books to October just because of my book club. So it's actually quite a thin book, a thinner book than I expected. So I think I'm gonna try to fit it in. I'm trying to think of when my next free time is, because of all these arcs that I can't stop requesting. I got like another 2 this week. In my defense, sometimes you don't know when you put them in. Like, you could put them in like months ago, and then, you know, the company ignores you until like a month before it's out, but they could have had that up there like 6 months. And what I really can't help is when someone sends me like a direct message, not a direct message, a direct email, because I've read a book by an author before, and they're like, hey, you liked this one. Oh. If I do not throw all these out, my cats are going to go nuts. So this is actually the only thing that I bought for myself that was not from the local bookstore. God. Your books were packed by H. Just H. Just the letter H with a period. Thank you, H. I appreciate it. Bubble wrap. Man, you pay a lot of money for a novella, and they make sure that you don't end up with a messed up novella. I appreciate, though. So this is going to be Sean and McGuire's book, and it is very expensive for a novella. I believe it was a $40 novella. Again, Christmas money, not my money, fun money. I promised myself that because it was one of only 3 Christmas presents I got, that I would do something nice. And, oh man, on top of that, it's got plastic wrap on it. They're working hard. So these are a limited edition, and I thought, okay, fantastic, I will do that. I also bought a ebook from them as well, which I really want to read, but I believe clearing out my ebooks and organizing them and all that other stuff is going to be a 2023 project. It feels really good, actually. It's like so smooth. Like, I can't tell you that how smooth this is. Like, it's really shiny smooth. So this is the new Merrick Grant. Let's get it good. Square 3. I know nothing about it. I've been sort of ignoring it. I'm not reading the inside cover. I'm probably going to read this really soon. Mira Grant is Sean and McGuire, and I've been like super into her stuff for a while, but like got really into Feed, the Newsflesh series, when it came out, because I thought, hey, I'm over zombies, and then And then she taught me that I was not, if you can put a really good spin on them, which in her case was to write a political thriller that also happened to have, happened to be in a world that was like sort of has zombies, but is kind of post-zombies. While I hugely recommend that, if you are frustrated about our government's response to the pandemic, I highly recommend maybe not reading these books right now and picking up literally anything else she's done, because in that world, you're tested all the time. And when this all started, I thought, oh, that's where we're going to go. That's where we're going to get to. We're going to be like, walking through doors, prick our finger. They test, whatever they need to test, and we'll be fine. Yeah. No. Unfortunately not. So, anyway, but then, last year on the Hugos, she was up for Best Series, and I got the whole series, and I read the whole series in like a week and a half. And so since then I was like, okay, I want to read that other series. So I actually am waiting for my the rest of my stuff, and that's going to be the first, I think, 8 books in that series, might be 6. And then I pre-ordered her next 2 books after this. Yeah, so I just spent a ton of money on her because I had spent just a little bit on the Hugos to get as much as I did, and I wanted to give back to her in particular for how much she made, her publishing company had done, because there were some books in that category of Best Series where they would just give you the first book, and then you had to like track down the other 2 in that series. And she had a series of 14 books, and they gave us all of them. And I really wanted to say, like, thank you to them for that. And so I just found, a series that I hadn't read, and I hope that's the same publisher. No, it is the same publisher, I think. And yeah, I wanted to give back that way. And I hope they notice. I hope they realize that, somebody did that. Well, I hope they did, because I wrote about it on Twitter. Yeah, so that's 2 books out of the lots of books that I should have. So my best friend picked up the books yesterday. So he got his, which was 4 Lost Cities, which is a nonfiction book, which I think he's actually going to really love. He is very into nonfiction and very into sci-fi. So usually I get him like sci-fi, and this year I decided to get him nonfiction, because I'm sweet like that. And I don't have to make everything about me, I guess. But also it was written by one of the people who created IO9, a sci-fi blog. So, yeah. So I got him that book, and then the author's partner is a sci-fi novelist, and then I got her book for my ex. Those were my 2 non-people who live in my house Christmas presents this year. And then I made cookies for one of my other best friends, and it turned out to be terrible. And fortunately, she and I have had that cookie before, and we know that I don't always make it taste like that. I don't know what I did wrong. So I was hoping to show you like a giant pile of books, most of which were all the same series anyway, but instead it's just this 2, because I wanted to do something. I just had, it was a good night because I got to like, talk to everybody at PT and say goodbye. And I wrote up a list of comic book recommendations for the comic book guy who does all the appointments, and they were really sweet. There was someone there at the physical therapy place who I did not want to be around, and they made sure that when that person was there, I was in a private room, and to make sure afterwards that I was never in the building with that person at the same time. So I actually did not know that tonight was going to be my last session. There was some confusion about whether or not it was going to be this week or next week. So I would have brought them something, maybe some cookies that weren't messed up. But yeah, I just feel like, you know, I've had a really tough month and a half since I got sick again. And I don't have a check-in with my neurologist for another almost 2 months. Which means it's just me doing my best for 2 months on my own, taking a bunch of medications that I don't know if they work, and making assessments on my own, and then bringing those assessments to my neurologist because there's literally no other test he can run for me that we know of. Anyway, so I decided, you know, now I'm like, I don't know what this look is. It's sparkly. It's very sparkly. Somebody's got to teach me how to do eyeliner since it's so hard for me to watch videos. But also, I don't see people. If you have a recommendation on some video that teaches you how to do eyeliner, where they have a very, very stable camera and not a lot of cuts, I can watch it on a good day, probably. And when I say stable camera, I mean the camera can't be in someone's hand at all. It has to be mounted. What I'm doing right now is not something that I can really watch. I will be able to cut it later because for some reason it's very, very easy for me to focus on my own face. And it's easier for me to cut video than it is to cut audio, it turns out, because the audio stuff is a little bit more finicky. The way that it, you know, it has the little... Yeah. So, I don't know what I'm going to do in this outfit. I've already taken a couple pictures, but that's all I got. Anywho, next time I'll be talking about the rest of the books that I get, hopefully. Jessica Pride's book, hopefully. And whatever else I can think of.